Today we're taking a look at the 35mm f2 Ultron from Voigtlander. This is a brand new M-mount lens that was sent to me by CameraQuest, so big thanks to CameraQuest for letting me try this lens out for a week or two. If you have anything Voigtlander that you're looking to pick up, definitely check CameraQuest out. They are a USA retailer, so they have tons of things to choose from. I'm going to put a link in the description to their website if you're interested. Now, I filmed plenty of shots of the lens itself as I had it in hand, so that way you guys could get a closer look, but unfortunately, due to timing constraints of, how long I had the lens and when I could film this video, I don't actually have the lens in hand, but there will be plenty of shots that you can see up close as well. So the Ultron is a really interesting design and something a lot of people have been asking me to review because I've been using the f1.4 Nokton on my M6 for a long time. I've owned it a couple of different times, as well as other Voigtlander lenses as well, and I've always talked about how great they are, especially for the price point, because they're usually a lot more affordable than Zeiss and Leica lenses, and I've always been happy with the results. So today we're going to take a look at the Ultron and how it compares to the Nokton, as well as just some general specs and information on the lens. It is a very small and compact lens and a really interesting design as well. It has sort of this vintage look to it with the knurling around the lens in chrome with a black finish, and it also has a really interesting focusing tab compared to the Nokton and other Voigtlander lenses. For instance, the Nokton and a lot of other Voigtlander lenses have this little rainbow shape focusing tab on the bottom of the lens, which is common for a lot of M-mount lenses, but this one has a very different look to it. It's this little knob that actually screws into the lens, so you have just this little rod that sticks out, and at first when I saw it I was like, I am not interested in that at all, but in use I actually really liked it. One thing that is nice is it is removable, so you can simply just unscrew it from the lens, and because the lens has this like little chrome knurling all the way around it, a lens like this you don't really have anything to grab a hold of. It's literally all on the focusing tab, whereas that lens, it actually has some ridges there and you can just hold the lens like you would an SLR lens and you don't have to use a tab at all. So I do like that it gives the option for people if they don't want to use it. And also the lens hood, which I think has a very polarizing design to it. It's very vintage looking, and it has this big rectangle shape, and it's a pretty big lens hood. I didn't personally have it whenever I had the lens in hand, but I looked up some photos online and I'm not a big fan of it, but you might be. In terms of the build quality, the lens does feel nice and solid. All the aperture clicks are really secure, and the focusing ring has just the perfect amount of resistance. It's really enjoyable to use. What's interesting about this lens is the minimum focus distance, which is actually closer than most rangefinder lenses. This lens can focus down to 0.5 meters, whereas the Nokton and a lot of other rangefinder lenses only focus down to 0.7 meters. Now in theory, this is great. That means you can focus closer, but with most rangefinders, the actual rangefinder mechanism can't focus closer than 0.7 meters. So you're going to end up doing some guesswork basically, because let's say right here is 0.7 meters, and then I go ahead and just turn the lens to 0.5, I wouldn't actually be seeing any difference in my rangefinder patch. I wouldn't see anything move. So you're going to kind of have to guess with that. Maybe you focus at 0.7, and then as you go to 0.5, you just lean in a little bit and try to guess how much you need to get closer. This is mainly if you're shooting wide open. If you stop the lens down and you have some more wiggle room there in how much depth of field you have, then maybe that's not big of an issue. Also, if you're adapting this lens onto a digital camera and you're just using like an EVF, and looking through exactly what the lens is seeing or seeing what the sensor is seeing, then that'll be fine. You'll be able to see your focus that way. But if you're using a rangefinder, just keep that in mind. You're not actually going to be able to take advantage of that using the actual rangefinder patch itself. Now, you might be able to use some goggles. I'm not sure if some of the older Leica close focusing goggles will work. I don't have any personally, so I wasn't able to test that out, but there might be a way around that. If you do know, definitely let us know in the comments, and I'll be sure to pin that comment so others can know as well. I did have to keep that in mind whenever I was shooting, because a lot of times if I'm shooting up close with my family and the kids are running around, I will really just pull focus all the way to 0.7 and just get close enough, and as soon as it's lined up, I shoot. And that's just kind of what I've gotten used to doing over the years, whereas with that lens, if I just racked focus all the way over to the left, that's going to be at 0.5 meters, not 0.7. So I definitely had to watch myself and make sure I was looking down at the actual scale on the lens and making sure I wasn't, going past that, because I didn't want to miss focus. Now, I tested the lens just walking around town, seeing what I could find. I shot a roll of Portra 400, and I was really happy with the results. This lens is incredibly sharp, as you would expect with something like this. It does have that aspherical design, which a lot of people are interested in because they want the extra sharpness, lack of barrel distortion or vignetting, compared to a non-aspherical design. And I actually shot a side-by-side test with the Ultron and the Nokton. That way you guys could kind of get a feel for how the lens looks wide open. So I shot a photo of my friend Brad inside roast. I shot it wide open with the Nokton at f1.4 at 1/500th of a second. I didn't move, I simply switched lenses, and I shot with the Ultron at f2 at 1/250th of a second. So you are going to see a little bit of difference there in the vignetting. The Nokton definitely has more of a vignetted look and a little bit more barrel distortion, but honestly not as much as I was expecting. So that was pretty surprising to me. Obviously with the post-it note I just threw that on there so that way you could see which lens I was using in each test, and even for myself because I didn't know how much of a difference I would actually see. So I wanted to make sure, I could remember that. But honestly, there wasn't as much of a difference as I expected. I do think I prefer having the extra stop of light over the f2, whereas some people might not be concerned about that, and they're more concerned about vignetting and barrel distortion, things like that. One shot in particular I shot of Carl's townhouse. I was really happy with this shot, but if you look at the very bottom of the frame, you can see that there's very little barrel distortion there. You have a really nice straight line of the yellow lines on the road. Normally, around those corners there, it would be rounded out a little bit, and you would see some distortion in the yellow lines, but honestly, it looks perfectly straight. I didn't do anything in post to correct that. I was really, really surprised by that. All in all, I am happy with how the lens performs. That being said, I think I would stick with my Nokton if I were given the choice between the two, just for a few personal reasons for me, basically. One, I like being able to shoot at f1.4. That extra stop of light is helpful for me as I shoot a lot indoors. I also prefer the focusing tab on this lens as well as the lens hood. Just all in all, I think this is a really phenomenal lens for the money, and it works well for me. But some of you might think differently, so if you have any questions at all about this lens, definitely leave those in the comments below, or just share your own thoughts about the lens as well. I would also recommend you guys check out Juan Martinez from Beers and Cameras. He did a full review on the Beers and Cameras blog all about this lens, tons of information. He shot it on film and digital. I'll put a link in the description to that as well. And just so you guys know, all the film in this video was developed and scanned by the Darkroom Lab, so big thanks to the Darkroom. So once again, any questions, leave those in the comments below. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.